Welcome to Grew with Portia, the podcast that uncovers the hidden treasures within grief. I'm your host, Portia the producer, and I'm inviting you to join me on a transformative journey where we will exchange laughter, of course, the best medicine of them all. Reflect on cherished memories. Remember that time that the little boy grabbed my hand instead of his mother's at the amusement park? Yikes. And of course, discover gratitude while navigating one of life's hardest challenges, loss. So get ready to grow with me, Portia the producer. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Grow with Portia. I am your host, Portia Booker, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep it with the latest and greatest of all with Grow with Portia. As you guys know, March is Women's History Month, and let's be realistic. There's some careers that women take the lead on that no matter what they do, there's so much scrutiny and misconception around it. And I'm talking about the mental health space today, everybody. So today I have the honor of being joined by an individual who is the CEO of a local mental health agency here in Ohio called Generations Behavioral Health. So welcome, CEO, Miss Shelby Azbill. So Shelby, welcome to Grow with Portia. How are you today?
I am wonderful, and thank you so much for having me.
Shelby, it's an honor because there's so many things going on in the mental health space, right? And there's a lot of misconception. And obviously, this is Women's History Month, and a lot of women struggle in silence because there's so much stigma, there's so much baggage that we carry, and we don't often feel that we have a safe space to go or breaking through that silence of seeking the help that we need. And I'm curious, Shelby, for our audience, let's be realistic. Mental health is a calling. We don't just wake up and say, you know what, I'm going to go and work in the mental health space. And I'm curious for our audience today, can you share with us the mission of Generations Behavioral Health and also what inspired you to take the lead in this organization?
Absolutely. So our mission here at Generations Behavioral Health is to provide compassionate care for really anyone that is seeking assistance with their mental health, whether it be for crisis stabilization, long-term mental health, medication management. We really try and hit every component to better serve our community. Now, I am a lifelong resident in Northeast Ohio, so I am very aware that the mental health resources are pretty scarce, and it seems to be a continuing trend. I know within our community, there's very little as far as therapy and medication. And we are one of very few inpatient behavioral health hospitals. So what we do here at Generations in Geneva, where I am based out of, is inpatient psychiatric care. So anybody the age 18 and older can come to our facility, whether it be via a referral from an emergency room. You can walk in the front doors 24/7 and get assistance with crisis. We see a lot of people that are dealing with suicidality, with psychosis, maybe new symptoms that they really don't know how to navigate. And we are here to support our friends, our family, our neighbors and community to the best of our ability. I've worked in this field for well over a decade, so I have started all the way from case management through individual therapy on an outpatient basis, inpatient care with adults, geriatrics, children and adolescents. And throughout my experience, my passion has only grown. So to be able to step into a role where I can lead a team that really spoke to my heart, especially for an organization that is so focused on efficacy, compassion, and really providing all that we can, the best of our abilities. It's been very rewarding and continues to do so as we grow, not only in our community, but throughout our nation. We have a lot of really great plans.
You know, Shelby, I'm glad that you touched on that compassionate care piece. And also, thank you for the work that you do because it's not easy, right? I'm sure that there's probably nights that you're tossing and turning like, oh, this person that I encountered today really left an imprint on my heart with their story of transformation. And, you brought up also about the resources, right? It seems that sometimes in Ohio, there's a plethora of some things and then there's a scarce amount of other things, right? And I'm curious too, Shelby, as me and you both know, and I alluded to in the beginning, there's a lot of misconception around mental health care and behavioral health care just across the board. And I'm curious, can you share with our audience today, what are some of these myths or misconceptions that you've encountered? And also, how is it that Generations Behavioral Health is continuing to put the true face of compassionate care at the forefront, especially when there's so many people that are struggling with compassionate fatigue right now, too?
Absolutely. So we see a lot of different misconceptions and stigmas surrounding mental health care. One that I've encountered specifically is people and populations thinking that their problems don't arise to the level of needing treatment. We see a lot of people come in with trauma and grief. And, I have spoken with so many people saying, well, it's really not that bad. I don't really need treatment. It's just a situation. And I would really want to promote that nothing is too small to ask for help. So trauma to one person might be, something that was catastrophic that happened in childhood. It could be abuse, neglect. It could have been like myself, I had to evacuate from a hurricane when I spent a couple years in Florida. But it could also be something like losing a job. It could be losing a pet, anything, a car accident. It could be something that you would never associate with that, but getting that treatment could really help open doors and avenues to different ways to help yourself. And identifying different resources and supports. So I would really encourage, there's no fault in asking for help. There's nothing too small. And here at Generations, we really try, and I think we're very successful at reiterating that within our community and making sure that it does not matter what the issue is. We are here to support you. We have a wonderful team that is willing to support, and we are all very knowledgeable in our fields. So, does every single mental health concern or issue require lifelong medication or, intensive dialectical behavioral therapy? It might not, but there's still something, that we can offer you.
And I love, Shelby, that you reiterated about there's no small or too big ask for help, right? Because I think as adults, we think that, right, we should know this, but we just never know how, just us losing a job, how that can really set us back, right? You know, to your point about having to evacuate a hurricane, I'm glad that you're here, and I thank you for sharing that because so many people think that us who are community advocates for others who have been through their own mental health struggles don't have our own because
Mhm.
there's this notion that we're kind of like the Tin Man, right, from the Wizard of Oz. And I'm curious, Shelby, could you share with our audience a story that always touches your heart about when you've been in leadership and have seen that transformation of somebody, whether on your staff or, someone who has been a patient under your wing?
Oh, absolutely. I have so many. Oh goodness. One of the things that I love about being in a leadership position is being able to see other professionals grow in their roles. And I've had several experiences. So I'm actually a social worker by trade. I'm a licensed independent social work supervisor here in the state of Ohio. And so I've been able to also provide supervision for those seeking social work licensure. And being able to see someone come in, even as a student, as a new employee, and see that hesitation or maybe that imposter syndrome and really be able to grow and flourish and reiterate how they feel they've really helped someone. And I actually just recently over the fall had a staff member who was a very new social worker, very new in the field in general, sit with a really difficult patient that a lot of other staff members had a really difficult time engaging. And they were able to kind of break through that barrier with this person and get them to open up and really make some positive changes and learn and accept some information. And that staff member came running to me, so excited about this breakthrough. We worked together to make sure that it was documented in a wonderful way. And I really felt that was a life changing moment in their career. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. So, as a mental health clinician, being able to play a part in the next generation of clinicians is something that's very near and dear to me.
And Shelby, that just made my day, right? Because something like that could make a break for a student, an aspiring social worker, and, make them want to step back from the field, especially if they encounter that first very difficult, patient, nothing's working to get through to them, all the questions, all the techniques, all the DBT, right? You're following everything in the book. But I love how there was that leadership from you, right? That sense of community, right? Because I think sometimes there's this notion of people being afraid to say anything because they don't know if somebody in leadership is going to have their back, right? And I'm glad that you get to witness this and also be able to help them develop in this ever changing world, right? Of mental health care, now AI too. And so I'm glad that you shared that, show, because I think there's so many people who need to hear that reminder that there are leaders out here that have the experience, that see and want to help the new generation of mental health professionals to be successful, you know?
Absolutely. And I will say, I've always been a huge advocate for the notion that, especially in the workplace, whether it's mental health, medical, whether it's a factory setting, whatever it might be, it's a leadership team. So we should all be working together and for one goal of providing the best services that we possibly can. And that's something here at Generations that really stands out to me is our team all the way from the staff on the front lines that are in our units really taking care of our patients all the way up through our corporate team is just that. And we're able to brainstorm and lean on each other and really come together to problem solve. That way, we can be a lot more proactive versus reactive, which I think makes a huge difference, not only for our workplace, but for our patients.
Oh, 100%, because everybody's on the same page, right? The goal is to make sure this person, not only just the person who's dealing with their own mental health challenges, but their families are supported. They have the resources, right? Because out of nowhere, right, someone who's struggling with bipolar could have an episode, right? Or schizophrenic, or, someone who has severe anxiety that can, go into a panic attack, right? Being able to clothe people with resources, right? Support them through the entire step. And then also show them that you care. Because that's why I brought up the compassion fatigue, because I think right now there's so much happening in the world, right? Where people are mentally exhausted. You know, they're trying to, put up, if you want to call it, Jedi boundaries of certain things, whether it's social media, the news. And sometimes you need that extra layer of support in the form of a person or an organization. And Shelby, I'm curious too, as I brought up in the beginning, there's a lot of misconceptions about mental health. There's also a lot of emerging new technologies, therapies, modalities. And I'm curious for our audience, how is Generations standing in that crossroads of being innovative to meet the demand and needs of these new, if you want to call it, mental health challenges because of, you think of COVID, the current political climate? So where is Generations Behavioral Health standing in that crossroad of innovation and providing services?
I think a major part of that is remaining educated and open minded. So, here at Generations, we are constantly learning, whether it be our providers and clinicians with their continuing education, even down to just overall having staff, you know about the different resources that are available. As far as things like AI, personally, I don't think that could ever replace, the experience of speaking with a person. But being apprised of it is important. and making sure that we are remaining unbiased to we're taking in every bit of information that we possibly can so we can utilize it to better serve our population and our million on the units and each other. I think you've brought up compassion fatigue, and I think that's a huge part of it as well, is making sure that we're taken care of. And Generations does a phenomenal job at that across the board with patients and staff. So we've implemented several different programs in that regard too. We currently have our patient experience program where we have some different initiatives that occur throughout the days to improve our patients' experience within our walls and make sure that they're heard and listened to and that they have information about things going on in the world. And if they want a staff member to kind of process that with them, that's available. All the way up to staff, where we have our staff wellness committee, where we are engaging our teammates and team members and making sure that we're offering the same to them as well. So I think there's a lot of different variables, and we're doing a wonderful job at being able to touch on all of them, as well as taking any suggestions. So we value the input and thought processes of not only our team, but our community. You mentioned families also. We have a family committee where we want families and supports to be engaged. And if there's something that the community is saying they want or that they need, being able to take that information and really run with it and do what we need to do to be able to serve them.
And I love that, Shelby. I mean, I appreciate also the AI thing because there's so much, around it, right? There's different people who are like, yes, in the mental health profession. Other people are like, no, but I think it's a tool, right? You use it for the tool that it is, whether you use it on a daily basis or however you use it. At the end of the day, it's a tool, but it still doesn't replace that human to human interaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I also love that you have the different committees for your staff, for the families, where you're getting input from all walks of life. Because how can we really make something health related without all sides of the equation, right? There's unique cultural nuances that, may not come up immediately, but why not be prepared in advance by having an open and welcoming presence from the beginning?
Absolutely. Diversity is so important. And being able to get that input and that perspective. I think the perspective is one of my favorite words because it's so valuable, because there's so many different things that people can bring to the table that you just have to listen. And diversity doesn't just have to focus on race, ethnicity. It could be age. It could be where you came from. Were you born in the country? Were you raised in the city? You're going to have different perspectives on things. So to be able to be within a company and within a place that services that and really takes that into consideration and to heart and receives that feedback so well, it has been a wonderful experience.
And I love that, Shelby. I absolutely love that for your organization. And Shelby, we're going to be wrapping up here soon. And again, I thank you for coming on the show and sharing with our audience about Generations Behavioral Health. Before we wrap up today, Shelby, I'm sure there's going to be individuals who may want to get involved, learn more about Generations Behavioral Health, maybe refer. Is there a website or any upcoming events or something that you would love to share with us today?
Absolutely. So you can always go on our website. It's generationsbehavioralhealth.com. Again, we have several different locations. So we have where I am based out of here in Geneva, Ohio, which is our 56-bed inpatient psychiatric hospital. We also have an inpatient psychiatric hospital in Youngstown and two outpatient therapy clinics, one based in Youngstown and one in Warrensville Heights. If you go on the website, we have our centralized intake number, and you are welcome to call it for any need. It could be a referral, a question. Right now, we are also opening our doors for the first time in quite some time to any aspiring clinicians. So we are accepting applications not only for employment for several different positions, including social work, nursing, behavioral health technicians, but for students who may be interested in coming to learn about the different levels of care and our different populations. So we welcome anybody that would also like a tour or have some questions or just wants to say hello.
So, everybody, as Shelby mentioned, you can go to their website, generationsbehavioralhealth.com. If you forget, you can do a Google search. You know, Google is your friend, or of course, the new AI assistant that pops up. You can just do voice of some sort. There's a phone number also on their website. There's multiple locations, Geneva, Youngstown, and also Warrensville, if you know, whichever one is closest to you here in Ohio. Well, everybody, that was the CEO of Generations Behavioral Health, Miss Shelby Azbill, that you heard from today on Grew with Portia. And that concludes our conversation for today. And until next time, everybody, peace and hair grease, everyone.